Hi everyone and welcome. We're back in the Baltics. This is part 2 of my 4-part series from Eastern Europe. Specifically, we're visiting the thoroughly interesting capital cities of Latvia and Estonia. In the previous video, we checked out the beautiful and quaint Riga Old Town, strolling in an icy December through narrow, cobbled streets among a variety of Art Nouveau architecture. In future videos, we're not only visiting Europe's largest indoor market and UNESCO World Heritage Site, situated in a converted airship hangar, but also visiting the gorgeous Tallinn, a city I'd almost describe as the polar opposite to Riga. We'll also be heading out of central Tallinn to explore an abandoned Soviet-era concert hall used in the 1980 Moscow Olympics. But as much as Riga is pretty, equally, it has a horrific past. In today's video, we'll be visiting the former headquarters of the Cheka, otherwise known as the KGB, for a lesson which even has a connection to my own family. Are you ready to explore Riga once again? I know I am. Okay, it's another cold December morning in Riga, and if you saw the last video, you'll know that I went to the Old Town in Riga, which I've got to say is absolutely beautiful. It's one place that I've actually genuinely been surprised with in a long time. Didn't expect that at all in Riga. But today we are venturing out to some slightly different areas of Riga to explore a bit of the history of Riga and indeed Latvia as a country itself. And if you are Latvian, I just want to point out that, I'm not one of these YouTube people that comes to a country and claims to know everything about a country, because clearly I don't, and there's no way that I could do. So what I'm going to do in this video is talk a bit about my views, my opinion, the things I see and learn as a foreigner in Riga. So let's get going. And this is actually the road I'm living on. I'm living up there. And one thing I have heard about Riga before I got here 3 weeks ago is that many people refer to it as the Paris of the Baltics. And you know what? I can see that. I was in Paris last year and I stayed in an area that's kind of out of the city, and the building style, architectural style is very similar, and you've got these lovely cobbled streets, and as you've seen already, there are cats everywhere, beautiful angels as I call them. Yeah, it's nice to come to an area like this because you can kind of see how, real people in Riga live on a daily basis. Okay, we're heading to our first spot of historical significance now. There are 2 in this video. And I've got to say about the architecture, you can see it behind me. It's so typically sort of European, even a bit sort of Scandinavian in feel. As I said in the old Riga video, there is that kind of chocolate box feel. And yeah, some of it might look a bit sort of dirty and stuff like that, but that's life, Things are always, absolute perfection. And that's actually one of the things that I think is the charm of Riga, if you know what I mean. Look at it, lovely. Another little park. And over there is where we're going next. This road is very France, as in Paris, it feels like. It's got like this tree-lined bit in the middle and like a double road on the other side, a bit like the Champs-Elysees in a way. Yeah, we're going up there. You can see it in the distance. Is this an Orthodox church? I can see Mary on the wall there. The reason I say it is Orthodox because it's got the gold domes at the top, like the ones I saw in Ukraine and Moldova. And also, you might be able to see over there in the distance, it's like a glass pyramid thing. It's like the Louvre in Paris. I've got to stop talking about Paris. This is Riga. Okay, let's try and do this bit without wind and people going past on bikes, and also trams. But we love trams, right? Tram spam is the best in Riga, and we've got one coming right now. There we go, tram spam, brilliant. Anyway, I'm at the Freedom Monument. I know that for many of you, it might not seem like the most aesthetically pleasing monument in the world, a bit like the Victory Monument in Minsk. But actually it's one of, if not the most important monuments in Riga and Latvia, because it commemorates people that died in the Latvian War of Independence between 1918 and 1920. If you look at the design of it, it's got people around the bottom. I believe it's meant to signify like trade and industry in Latvia. Fishing is one, apparently. I'm not sure if that's right. I did read it. And also soldiers and army, obviously, because it's a military thing. And the interesting thing about it is that it was built in 1935, and obviously by that point Latvia was part of the Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union apparently said that no, it wasn't built in 1935, it was built later. And the Lady Liberty up the top is actually Mother Russia, and the 3 stars are meant to signify the 3 Soviet socialist republics: Latvia, Estonia and Lithuania. And there have been many calls apparently to demolish this monument over the years. I'm quite surprised that it actually remained standing throughout Soviet times, because when you think about it, you know, Soviet Union was all about silencing people who were against their regime, if you know what I mean. So it's surprising that something was allowed to remain standing that signified Latvian independence. And then obviously, you know, in more recent times, 1991, the breakdown of the Soviet Union, again, independence in Latvia became an important, prominent thing, and now Latvia is its own country. And on the subject of Soviet regime, I'm putting my gloves on because we're going to the former KGB headquarters. And lastly, I think I got a shot of them the other day when the sun was out, when the focus was going wrong on my camera, but I'll put it over the top anyway. There are like guards that parade around the monument, and I read that in order to get a job as one of the guards at the Freedom Monument, you have to be over 6 foot tall, and you have to be able to stand still for 30 minutes. It's a bit like the Beefeaters in London, you know. And also this, I love this. This is just another thing of, you know, the kind of architecture and the history in Riga. That is a famous Latvian confectionery company, I believe, dating back to 1870, as you can see the year up there. Chocolate caramel confectionery, Zephyr. We're going to have some of them in the next video, hopefully. It's a food video, the next one, and I can't remember what the last word is. I'm going to have to look it up. Operation Barbarossa. That was when the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union, right? I was just thinking about it because I said it before, in Serbia, you know, as a Brit that was primarily taught about English history in relation to the Second World War and subsequent as well. It's always quite interesting to come to a place like Latvia where you can learn about these sorts of things. I don't really know much about the KGB. That's why I'm going, to learn more. And the thing I was going to say about Latvia from a foreigner's point of view is that it feels like Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania have always kind of been the piggies in the middle in territorial dispute between Germany and Russia. And, you know, crap wind. Yeah, piggies in the middle in terms of Russia and Germany. And the interesting thing that I have read about is about the fact that many Latvians, and obviously there was the whole thing with Jews and Holocaust and everything, many Latvians were deported to Siberia. And the interesting thing is, my grandparents were deported to Siberia from Poland, so there's that sort of shared history, if you like. So the corner house is up there. Here we are, we're at the corner house. It's called that, unsurprisingly, because it's on a corner. It's the ex-KGB headquarters in Riga. And a word of warning, this may be slightly grim. There are cells in there where people were killed. And there is an exhibition and a museum, a guided tour. At the moment, during COVID time, this is December 2020, you can only do it within one household. I'm one person, so it's essentially a solo tour. You can't film in there, but they have told me that I can film some shots, and I'm going to do a voiceover afterwards, so let's get going. Right, mask on. By the way, it's 10 euros for one person. Oh my god. Okay, it's the next day. Let's talk about this tour. It's very difficult to talk about, but I'm going to try and do my best. There are 3 words I would use to describe it initially, all of them beginning with H. Horrifying, harrowing, and heartbreaking, quite honestly. When I left, I think it had the same kind of emotional impact on me that Auschwitz or Sachsenhausen did. It's grim history, but I think it's grim history we need to know about, that's important to learn about. So you go in, there's like an exhibition, you learn about the Riga Central Prison. It talks about how people were taken to gulags or hard labor camps in the USSR. People were deported from Latvia to Siberia to camps there. As I said, just like my grandparents were deported from Poland in the early 40s. It talks about the Cheka, which is the Latvian name for KGB. Didn't know that. That's something I learned, among other things. And it gives like a list of crimes that people supposedly committed. And really, a lot of them are ridiculous. There was no way out. There were no loopholes. The Cheka were very meticulous in their manner. You know, you couldn't really get out of anything. There was always some sort of crime that you're committing against communism or the Soviet regime. You then start the tour, and I've got to say the tour guide was incredible, absolutely brilliant, informative, educational. You start off in like a registration room where people were initially taken. People that were taken were initially people like teachers, educated people, scientists. It then developed into like wealthy people. People were against that whole communist equality thing. And then it developed into like partisan resistance groups. So people like the Forest Boys I learned about, which was a group of resistance fighters or partisans that were against the Cheka. People that were taken there, they were stripped naked. They had buttons and shoelaces taken off, a very degrading experience. And that was done so that they couldn't commit suicide, obviously, with a shoelace or whatever. There were photos of them on the wall. And you then go to an interrogation room, which she talks about in there about physical and psychological torture, obviously. And I didn't realize the physical torture thing was such a huge aspect, particularly in the earlier days. That's my naivety and ignorance. I'll come back to that in a later point. The psychological torture was mainly sleep deprivation. So in the cells where you go into next, there are these lights, and you know they would have been ridiculously bright to stop people from sleeping during the day and during the night. And the cells there were basically three types of them. There were Rose Street, Lord Street, and the third one is Mud Street. That was it. And they were basically given those names to highlight the level of comfort in them. And obviously none of them were comfortable. Even the Lord ones were up to, 20, 30 people in the room, sleeping in crap. They've got a bucket of their excrement in the room that was only emptied once a day. Boiling hot, the heating was turned up intentionally, no windows, no fresh air, a lot of disease and illness, obviously. You then go downstairs into the basement where they had like the exercise area, and you go into the other, some of the other cells underneath, which, were slightly more horrific. You then go to a kitchen. The kitchen was very odd. It had like these pots, and I'd read about before about the fact that the food that was produced was very much moldy and gone off and disgusting, and everything was cooked in the same pots. But the weird thing was there were photos on the wall of like the kitchens in the 70s or 80s, and it was almost weird because the photos on the wall, it looked like a modern like 80s kitchen. It looked like my mother's kitchen from the 80s. That's an indicator of how things did change there. Obviously the Checkers way of working and regime remained the same, but it also slightly changed in its level of severity in terms of the treatment and the torture that people were put through. You then go to an execution room. This was the harrowing part. There's bullet holes on the wall, as you would imagine. About 186, I think, people were shot there. And there's a photo on the wall of like a horizontal wooden panel on the wall. But then in real life, you see the vertical panels. And when they were investigating this, they thought, oh, that's weird. So they took the vertical ones off and found all these other bullet holes on the horizontal one behind it. And what they're doing there is very worthwhile because, as with many people, as with my grandparents, people left those countries to go to countries like the UK, the US and Australia. And now they're going back there. And there was the story of a Latvian woman from Australia that went back there and she saw a photo of someone on the wall and said, oh, that's my grandfather. So she was able to get a bit of closure, if you know what I mean, and find out what actually happened to her family members, which is great. So there is a worthwhile side coming out of this. And overall, for me as someone that was born in the early 80s, obviously I know a bit about, what happened with the breakdown of the Soviet Union and Mikhail Gorbachev and Boris Yeltsin, but there's always been a bit of a missing link. As I said, education for me about the war and after that was all about the UK. There was nothing about the Soviet Union. And even though my grandmother wrote a book about her experiences and her treatment at the hands of the Soviet Union, and my mother has told me things that my grandmother told her, I still feel like there's always been a missing link, and I've had a bit of naivety and ignorance, if you know what I mean. So going to someone like this really kind of filled in the gaps for me. So overall, 100% recommend this. You know, I think people don't go to places like this. They don't know about places like this. I didn't know about it until I went here. So yeah, awesome. The next video is a food video. I'm going out to film it now. So I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. In this video, we are exploring a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the thing I want above anything else. I've come full circle.